Okay, everybody. Thank you for everyone who joined us thus far. Should be expecting more people to come in. So tonight is really it's two parts. So we are going to be going over some of our educational information regarding women's hygiene related to period, but the overall goal is to bring awareness to period poverty and just some of the dangers and some of the things that women deal with on a daily, and so we could raise awareness to everyone because women know what they deal with, but it's really important to know more of the ins and outs and know more about some of the educational aspects to help improve some health literacy, but also to allow people to be more aware and understanding of what people may be dealing with. So tonight we're going to be going over our title, our PowerPoint called Who, What, When, Who, What, Where, When, Why, period. And Molly and Niv are going to be handling most of the presentation, and they're going to be giving you the background information, because this was a big part of what they were working on over the last few months. It's a three-part pilot, and once we get through this, the next goal is to do more to launch a bigger program and bigger just more workshops and do more work around period poverty and just helping increase awareness around menstrual hygiene because some people sure they know, but there's a lot of people who don't know, and it's really good to improve that awareness so everyone can be on the same page and just be more understanding, empathetic towards this. So I'm going to get us started, but before we do that, we are going to put a little thing in the chat. It's just a knowledge test for folks to see what they may or may not know about periods and the anatomy of the vagina, the uterus, and the whole network down there. So this would be good. Because some people, may know, but there's a lot of things that, we may be unaware of and we take for granted. Okay. So, who are we? We're the Urban Health Collaborative. The goal of this organization is to collaborate with local, state, and national partners to help bridge the gap between healthcare and education to lessen the burden of health disparities in urban communities. We strive to improve their overall health of youth and their families in these communities, and our focus is central and northern New Jersey, but we also do some work in other places. But those are our two main areas, and we try to help communities learn new skills and but also teach them how to use them to improve their mental health, preserve it, the mental and physical health to prevent mental illness, chronic disease, comorbidities, and to learn how to better empathize with people in everyday life, regardless of race, gender, and ethnicity and identity. So we are going to get started.
All right, so today's basic agenda is going to comprise of these statements, but I just want to take a little step back here. So periods, or time of the month, happens every month to menstruators, and it happens, we move on, we deal with it, but like, why are we here today? As I kind of mentioned, it's important to learn about our periods. It's important to learn to know just like what's happening down there. But like maybe someone in your family recently started their menses and you want to be able to support them. You're curious to learn more about like the scientific, the nitty gritty of the period. And maybe you're here to support an initiative to destigmatize menstrual health. All of these reasons are so valid, valid, valid. And today you're here to claim that power of knowledge, to understand the nitty gritty, this essential process that occurs in a menstruator's body, and that affects not just a few days in our life, but actually just every single day. So we're going to start off with what is a period. We're going to go into the phases of the menstrual cycle. Then we're going to go into period products, and then finally myth busting. So
Right. So,
yeah,
what is a period? So, when you hear the word period, what comes to mind from your understanding? What is a period? So, we would love for you guys to share your input on what comes to mind when you think of a period, what you know about periods. So, you can either like unmute in the chat, like raise your hand and we can discuss it, or you can just enter it in the chat. So, like when I think of a period, I think of like the bleeding that happens once a month, but everyone might have a different, initial thought for it. Cramped, yes.
yeah, I feel crusty, gross, sleepy, tired.
Sleepy, yeah. I feel like fatigued. I think of like I get acne, like I break out when I'm on my period. So
But yeah,
anything
but
else anyone wants
in
to
general,
add?
like an uncomfortable time, time that I'm just not looking forward to.
Yeah. Okay. So what is a period? So there are many ways that we can come to understand what a period is, and the Cleveland Clinic has stressed, yes, very true. The Cleveland Clinic has provided a basic definition for a period. So a period can also be understood as menstruation. We might use the words period and menstruation interchangeably throughout the duration of this pilot program, Flown to Know, but just know that we're referring to the same thing. So menstruation is the monthly shedding of the lining of the uterus. Blood and tissue from the uterus leave through the cervix and exits the vagina. And that is how the Cleveland Clinic has defined it. Right, so when should you expect your period? So the coming and going of your period is highly variable to a lot of factors. So when might someone expect to get their first period? So your first period is referred to as your menarche. That's just kind of the scientific term used to define the onset of menstruation for the duration that you're going to have it. And this can vary from person to person due to genetics, such as, asking your mom when she first got her period, and also your environment. You also, after you've had your first period, you should expect to have it arriving typically once a month or ideally every 28 days. However, this has a lot of variance due to multiple factors. And so one of those factors is hormones, which we will discuss later on, the big role that hormones play in your menstrual cycle, the environment, so how your body responds to the environment, and this will affect how your menstrual cycle is, how early or late it is, how regular it is. Your body is really responding to the environment. So then stress, someone mentioned stress earlier. Stress can lead to irregularities in your menstrual cycle, but it's not just menstrual stress. You could be exerting your body too much. So if you're having physical stress on your body, you may notice an absence of your menstrual cycle. And then we have age. So if you are too young, then obviously you wouldn't be having your period if you haven't had your menarche. But then also as you get older, you may experience menopause, which is when you begin to stop getting periods altogether. And so using an app or a notepad is really a good way to keep track of your periods so that you can find those irregularities, and just in case you have some health issues going on.
Yeah. So we know that our period isn't just those 7 days, 4 days, 3 days that you're bleeding. It's actually a process that happens, a cycle, a 28-day cycle. So the day it kind of starts with our menstrual phase. And then we move on to our follicles growing, when we have ovulatory phase. And then finally the luteal phase, where our follicle turns into a corpus luteum. And here we have a lot of things at play. We have our ovaries, we have our uterus, and we have hormones and ovum that are all changing within this cycle. So you can see in this graph that there are a lot of different things at play. We're going to go a little bit more deeper into what changes what and how everything works together to regulate our menstrual cycle, the hormones, and the follicle as it grows from as it turns from a follicle to an egg into our ovary and our endometrial lining sheds. So we'll start with some words to know. We can start with some words to know.
So
yeah, go ahead.
there we go. So important words to know. So vagina, I'm sure a lot of us know that word already. So the vagina is not a word, is a word that we typically use, a mainstream word to describe usually the whole reproductive system, but actually the vagina is only the canal between the uterus and the external reproductive organs. And then the uterus. So the uterus is a hollow pear-shaped organ where the fetus grows during pregnancy. It is separated from the vagina by a narrow canal called the cervix. So then the cervix is a narrow canal that separates the uterus and the vagina. So we would have the uterus up here. It's kind of like this shape. And then the cervix would kind of be like where my thumbs are at, and then the vagina would be below that. So then we have the ovaries. There are 2 ovaries. These are small oval-shaped glands located on the sides of the uterus. Eggs from inside the ovaries also produce hormones. Then we have the endometrium, which is the mucosal membrane lining the uterus, which thickens during the menstrual cycle in preparation for possible implantation of an embryo. So you would be shedding this during your period. And then fallopian tubes, so there's 2 of those as well. These are tube-like structures connecting the ovaries to the uterus. This is what the ova passes through to implant to the endometrium lining.
Now, our key hormones. So a lot of what regulates the cycle and what kind of makes things progress towards all the different stages are these 4 main hormones. So our follicle stimulating hormone is kind of what the word says. It stimulates our follicle in the ovary to grow and prepare eggs for ovulation. And our luteinizing hormone is actually a really important hormone that's used to stimulate ovulation. So you see, it's called the LH surge, and you'll see it in the graph. There's a giant surge, and that's going to trigger that ovum, the follicle, to release the ovum into the fallopian tube. And then estrogen, you're probably really familiar with, is a primary sex hormone, and it plays a role during the maturation of our sex organs, and also plays a role in thickening of the lining of our uterus. And then finally, progesterone prepares the endometrium for fertilized egg implantation. And in case of conception, progesterone increases to support our pregnancy. So progesterone is mainly the hormone that we see when during conception, when the ovum has implanted in the uterus, and it's what's keeping that endometrium alive well to support the eggs as it continues to grow and sustain itself. Alrighty, so now we're going to go into the fun cycle. The first phase. So wait, just to reiterate, if you look at the top right, the ovaries and the uterus, just like Molly was saying. So we have our ovaries at the top, and then you have your the little cervix, and then your uterus. Oh, sorry, your ovaries are the little circle over there, and then that's what holds the eggs, and we go in through the fallopian tubes, and then we go to our uterus, and then it sheds through. So we start off with our follicular phase, and this is the first, as we said earlier, there's 2 aspects to your cycle: what's happening in your ovaries and what's happening in your uterus. So in your uterus, that's where the endometrial lining exists, and the first part of the phase is the menses, the menstrual phase. So this is when your lining is going to be shedding, and the high estrogen is, sorry, let me go back there. So the menstrual phase is when your uterus lining is shedding. And while it's shedding, we have in our ovaries our follicular phase. And that's what's causing the follicles to grow. And this is occurring during day 1 to 14, the follicle is growing. And then the second half of what's happening, so the first day 1 to 7 is your menses. And then your 7 to 14 is your proliferative phase. So this is when the high estrogen that is steadily increasing as we go through days 1 to 14, it allows the lining of the endometrium to grow. So we're losing our endometrium lining, so that's our menses, and then the proliferative phase is it growing. And then we have ovulation. So estrogen is going to be causing the luteinizing hormone. It's going to be signaling luteinizing hormone to it's a positive feedback loop. So it's going to increase. And once we get to a certain, it's called the LH surge. So if you look at the top graph, you see that orange line that like has a sharp increase. That's your LH, and it's going to cause the ovary to release its egg from the follicle, which is going to eventually develop into your corpus luteum. So this is when your ovary releases its egg, and it's a really important part of the cycle. And now we have our luteal phase. So now our ovum is traveling through the fallopian tube. And if sperm were traveling through this is actually where conception, fertilization could occur during that process. So after the egg has erupted from the follicle, those cells will start forming the corpus luteum, which is going to be secreting estrogen and progesterone. So as we mentioned earlier, estrogen and progesterones are the ones that are going to be allowing the thickening of your endometrium. And it's basically preparing that ovum to be ready for implantation if fertilization were to occur. So obviously that's not happening every month. So if fertilization doesn't occur, it kind of resets eventually the corpus luteum, which is kind of there to secrete progesterone. It'll kind of like slough off, and it'll start producing less and less estrogen, progesterone, and that's going to cause our cycle to go all the way back to the beginning, where we go back into our menses and low levels of estrogen and progesterone. And that's kind of like day 1 to 28 and how it repeats itself. So yeah, it's kind of it's kind of a psychofollicular phase, ovulation, luteal phase. And so it's just how a little depiction of how your ovaries and uterus work in tandem with each other, and how the hormones are all kind of signaling each other to move forward through the phases of our menstrual cycle.
So who has periods? So we want to create a space that is inclusive of all gender expressions. So not everyone who menstruates is a woman, and not every woman menstruates. So this is meant to include individuals who may be transgender or non-binary, because they can still experience menstruation. So it is important to leave a spot at the table, as you may say, when it comes to ensuring access to education and reproductive health care. So we have symptoms and shared experiences. So I want to open this up for a little discussion or just getting some input. So here we have a lot of common symptoms that you might hear of. Some of those were mentioned earlier for what you think of when you think of periods. So we have cramps, bloating, backaches, mood swings, constipation or diarrhea, acne, or sore or tender breasts. So throughout the different phases of menstruation, these can be experienced at different times. Do you ever experience these symptoms? Are there symptoms that aren't on this list that you might experience that maybe should be included? Feel free to speak up if you would like, or just add some in the chat if you feel that you have some experiences that you would like to share. I know when I get my period, I definitely get acne, cramps, and backaches. And bloating is definitely one of those as well. Cravings, that's a good one. Cravings, like depending, we will talk about that in another workshop actually, about what foods to eat during different phases. So that's definitely a good one. Migraines. Yeah. So many, like a big variety of symptoms that someone might experience.
Fatigue. I was going to say that too. I think one of the things for me is I just get really, really tired. And I think that makes sense just because like our body's doing a lot of work. And that's probably, like Molly said, we're going to be talking a little bit more about like optimizing our cycle and just knowing like the energy levels and the foods that like how we can best support our body during this time. but being fatigued is definitely an aspect of like specifically the menses part of the cycle.
All right, so what to use when maintaining hygiene during menstruation? So I'm sure that everyone has heard of pads. Pads are a common and easy way to manage your period. They come in a variety of sizes, absorbencies, and they can also come with wings, which wings wrap around to the bottom of your underwear to help secure them in place, or they can come without wings if you're more comfortable with that. And then this is just stuck onto the inner lining of your underwear. Tampons, another super popular, super common one to manage your period. They also come in different absorbencies, which would change the size of it to absorb some more. And then there's compact sizes, which would be, a lot of times you see these in Europe, but they would come without the applicators, just kind of in a plastic wrapping. And with or without applicators. So you can have cardboard applicators, plastic applicators, or no applicators at all. And this is placed inside the vagina. Then we have cups. So if you've ever heard of the Diva cups, these are not as common, but they are becoming a lot more popular. They're great for being sustainable since they are reusable, and this is placed inside the vagina. Next, we have menstrual discs. So I didn't really know what menstrual discs were until I started doing some research for this project. So there's a big difference between menstrual discs and menstrual cups, but I just want to describe. So menstrual discs are flat disc-shaped menstrual products that are inserted in the vagina, sitting behind the cervix, and they can be worn for extended periods, so up to 12 hours. Compared to tampons, you typically wear those between 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 hours. And then the difference between a menstrual disc and a menstrual cup is that a menstrual disc is sitting right below the cervix, while a menstrual cup will be sitting in the vagina. We have period underwear, which are absorbing garments. So kind of similar to the concept of pads. They can be compared to regular underwear, except they're serving the purpose of absorbing menstrual blood, and then they keep you feeling dry and prevent leaks. You can wear these for up to 12 hours. So kind of like the menstrual discs, these are better if it might fit your lifestyle, if you're kind of a little bit too busy to be having to change a menstrual product too often. And then we have reusable pads. So these are made from fabric like cotton, bamboo, or hemp that can be washed and used repeatedly. Unlike regular disposable pads, they can be worn for 4 to 6 hours depending on the flow. So period underwear, those can be disposable, or you could wash them depending on which kinds you buy. And the reusable pads, those you wash as well. So these are some more sustainable ways to maintain hygiene during menstruation.
And a big part about this too, some of the what to use, right? It's we take that for granted because we live in the United States, and if you're working class, you're expected, to just have all this stuff and know this stuff. But it's really expensive, to have a period, to be a woman or a person, who considers to have a period, because yes, we're one of the states that doesn't have the luxury tax anymore, and some of our programs provide up to like $15 a month to help, purchase some of these products, but $15 a month, it's really not much, and especially if you have two women in your household, maybe three, who are of age, it's like what you're blowing through that within the first few days. So it's important to conceptualize this as not just, you talking about menstrual hygiene, but that's why the word period poverty comes in, because if you're a person who already, is in a lower income, right, or you're just in a working class family, how do you expect that you already always have these? Yes, you have to make the way for it, and you have to budget for it, but still, some people have to choose between food and being clean, or choosing between some electricity bills or this. So it's tough to think about it, and until you're in that situation, or until you hear people's firsthand stories, you're like, no, no, that's not true, but it is true. Thank you.
Right. So some individuals that might be experiencing period poverty, they wouldn't have access to products such as tampons and pads. They might just be using toilet paper or using some other articles of clothing, whatever they can find, and even being able to find a sanitary and clean space to change their menstrual products. So that's why maybe some of the more sustainable options might help mitigate against period poverty. But we'll be able to discuss that a bit later on when we do period talk and when we talk about, how are we going to address discrepancies and trying to uplift people who menstruate in the community. All right, pop quiz. So which of these period products mentioned do you think people use the most and the least? So we have pads, tampons, menstrual cups, menstrual discs, period underwear, and reusable pads. So maybe just add in the chat what you think has the most, cups and discs the less, okay, the least, okay. Pads.
Which one?
Anyone
Another
else?
question. A fun question would be which one is the least intimidating and which one is the most intimidating?
Oh,
Yeah, that's exactly.
you're so right.
I
I think
remember.
I would be more intimidated by the Diva cup because I have heard that like part of it, keeping it in place, is like the suction of the vaginal canal. So you have to
Yeah.
kind of like pinch it out. Yeah, cups. But the disc, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean also like I had I had to teach my sister how to use a tampon, and but it's not easy, especially like when like you're a young person who probably like is not very familiar with that area. Like you're getting real up and close, and it's hard to figure out like how it works, how it fits, and there's a lot of parts and steps. It's overwhelming. And it's like it's very much a personal preference of like which ones work for your lifestyle, because like sometimes like athletes might have like a different preference versus like or maybe like someone who's like wants to do more sustainable options or like waste reduction, finances. Like this is like periods, like as we've learned, it's really just it's not a one size fits all. Like people have different um lengths. It could be 2 days, it could be 3 days, it could be 7 days. People have different like how heavy their periods are. Like you could have a really light one, you could have a really heavy one. It could be irregular. You never know when it's going to start, when it's going to go, which really adds to just like it's stressful sometimes, especially for people that might not have like access to it all the time, and like having to like think about all of these and figuring out how I'm gonna find it, how I'm gonna be prepared when they have so many other things to worry about.
yeah.
Yeah.
You brought up a point, Niv, about like lifestyle choices when it comes to using menstrual products, because like I've been a swimmer all my life. So using products such as tampons and menstrual cups is definitely something that fits my lifestyle a little more, but some people, again, might be a bit intimidated. So the answers are in. So regular tampons and sanitary napkins or pads are basically like head and head, with tampons slightly more, just 1% more. And then we have panty liners, super absorbent tampons. So that would be, when you think of like the ultra, like the super big tampons. We have menstrual cups, which is like the Diva cup, period underwear, and then a combo of pads and tampons. And we don't have reusable pads from this poll, but I am sure that it would not have been very high on this list.
And Molly mentioned it earlier. There's different preferences, and Niv alluded to this too, but there's also a deep-rooted, different cultures, and also sometimes different religions. They perceive periods and menstruation differently. So when you think about the taboos, and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, like trying to teach somebody that stuff, it's like it's very in some families, some cultures, you don't even talk about it. It's like, oh well you have it here, go in there and try this. But it's, you know, dispelling those taboos and also trying to provide culturally competent education, information, and improve literacy skills around it. So it's it's a topic. It's a doozy.
Right. So what are some of the myths or stereotypes you've heard about periods? So I remember when I was first learning about what a period was, they opened up the end for questions. And I remember this one girl, this was when I was in fourth grade, and she was asking, can you go swimming while you are on your period? Because, you know, some people hear the myth that you can't swim while menstruating or sharks will attack you, which is not true. That's a myth. So part of destigmatizing is also debunking some of these commonly held myths. You know, I'm 22 and someone was thinking that back when I was in like fourth grade. So that's, I don't know how many years ago, over a decade ago. And these are still myths that are upheld in society. So we need to kind of fight against the idea that menstruation could be dirty or impure. The thought that you can't cook while you're on your period, that is a stereotype. Obviously, you can still cook. Your menstruating is not going to hold you back from cooking. Cook and bake as much as you please. And then also the idea that using tampons can cause someone to lose their virginity. Using a tampon or inserting anything for menstrual hygiene has nothing to do with your virginity, and doing those things to maintain hygiene during menstruation would not cause you to lose your virginity. And then that last one, you know, can people always tell when you're on your period? People experience a wide range of symptoms and have different experiences when they are menstruating. So you can never really pinpoint, oh, that person is on their period. Or some people might say if they're PMSing or if they're really moody, you know, that's when someone can identify when someone is on their period, which is a stereotype that can be really harmful for some people, for menstruators especially.
Come on, Sally, the movie's about to start.
You go ahead. I'll join you real quick. Oh no, I think I just got my period.
Run for your lives! It's the menstrual cycle!
Menstruation. It's dangerous and dirty.
Okay, y'all need to relax. And this is completely wrong. Much better.
But it's got blood and stuff.
Yeah, menstrual blood. It's just regular blood with uterine lining. Those are just typical parts of your body. It doesn't have any dangerous ingredients, so there's no need to be scared. I'm period, by the way. And that is a very cool haircut you got there.
Oh, hi, thanks. I got it.
Hey! If you're menstruating, you must stay at home!
Oh no!
Oh boy.
Oh, I must not leave the house, for it is that time of the month. My life, it is over.
Oof, the drama. Don't listen to that. That's just another outdated myth. Menstruation rights are human rights. Listen up, everybody! It is okay for us to go out during our period. You can learn to manage your period instead of letting it manage you. And there are tons of solutions to help you with that, like pads, tampons, or menstrual cups. Having your period shouldn't prevent you from going to school, playing sports, or hanging out with your friends.
But shouldn't I feel ashamed about it?
Hey, look here. There's nothing to feel shame about. Half of the world menstruates. And yeah, it can really hurt sometimes. But menstruating allows the body to reproduce if a person wants to. It's an amazing part of being human. And if you feel uncomfortable or unsure, you can try talking to others. There are many myths about our menstrual cycles. But if we allow ourselves to talk about it and ask questions, together we can break down these myths.
Instead of letting them hold us back. Thanks, period.
Everything okay?
Yeah, I just got my period.
Oh, okay. Popcorn?
All right, so let's do some more myth busting. So another common misconception is that you cannot get pregnant while you are on your period. And so while the chances are slim of getting pregnant while you're on your period, sperm can actually live in your body for up to 5 days. So pregnancy is still possible even if it doesn't actively happen right when you're menstruating. Your period should last exactly 1 week every month, and this is just totally not true. Like we talked before, there's a lot of variability when it comes to menstruation and periods. On average, a period is between 5 to 7 days every 4 to 5 weeks, but everyone is unique, and so are their periods. You can be affected by your genetics, by your environment, again, with stress and other factors like that. So then another myth, premenstrual syndrome, aka PMS, is all in your head, and this is just simply not true. For some people, PMS symptoms can be mild, and then for others, they can cause you to miss school or work due to pain or discomfort. These feelings are very real. So like someone said earlier, migraines can make it very difficult to do school or work or any other pleasurable activity. And this could be a possible PMS symptom. And then stuff like cramps or backaches can make that a bit more difficult to do. And then this last one, you should avoid exercise during your period. So exercise can actually be capable of helping ease your menstrual pain and discomfort. It can help you feel more focused and energized. And in one of our later workshops, we will talk a bit more about how you can change your workout and your lifestyle to curate towards what phase you are in your menstrual cycle, because there are some exercises that fit a bit better maybe in the luteal phase, and then other exercises that fit better during ovulation or in some other phases. So we'll get to that later on in the program. All right, so now we want to open up for any questions someone might have, any comments someone would like to add about just what we've discussed overall today.
Well, I have a question for you too. Oh, there's a question in the chat. Sorry, you guys got this.
But can we talk about how painful and awful periods can be? I mean, yeah, it can definitely be painful and awful, especially if there are irregularities. Bleeding's not fun. Having to buy menstrual products is not fun. Did you have anything in particular you want to talk about the discomfort with periods? I know later on in this program we talk about how different foods that you could eat might mitigate some of the symptoms. That's in our third workshop, and also some other ways to treat symptoms.
And
yeah, it's definitely pain.
another thing is kind of continuing on the point that it's not one size fits all, is that everyone has different periods. I feel like even like every month for me, it's a different kind of exhaustion. It's a different kind of painful. And we really have no idea. Like, it's not something, one of the myths is like you can tell if like someone is on their period or not. Like, you have no idea what someone is going through. You have no idea how much pain they might be in, how much they're trying to like put up a front to like what they're feeling right now, because honestly that's what we have to do. We have to continue our lives as if nothing is really happening, as if everything is just normal, because it is just a part of life that you have to figure out how to deal with. But that's not necessarily something everyone can do. Maybe someone has PCOS, maybe someone has other types of things that can make periods even more painful. And sometimes we need to take that into account. And I think attention is much needed, well deserved, because period pain is real, and the exhaustion and the changes in our mood and hormones are all things that uh, should be talked about. And I think it shouldn't be a destigmatized, like, I mean, destigmatizing is useful and helpful in this way, because how am I supposed to ask for, like, say I do have issues and I do need to stay and work from home? How am I supposed to ask for it? And I need to be comfortable with having that conversation with my boss and being like, hey, like, can I please, like, work from home this day? I have, like, really bad cramps. And starting this conversation, being more aware of, like, what goes on in our bodies, menstruators' bodies, being aware, not just like women, but men or whoever menstruates, doesn't menstruate. This is kind of where we want to go with this. And this is like one of the steps for that.
So, Molly and Niv, how can practical people help support people who maybe experience period poverty, or people who may be experiencing just poverty or need or want to help this populations here in the United States?
I think one of the main things is definitely advocating for policies and other kind of litigation for getting rid of stuff such as the tampon tax. There are still states that tax menstrual products as luxury items, which obviously they are not. They are necessary for basic hygiene for people who menstruate. And also when it comes to having free products in schools, having free products in the workplace, you know, these places should be spaces where people can feel clean after they use the restroom, or if they are menstruating, and providing these products like toilet paper is a necessity. Like they said in the video, half of the world menstruates. So it should be normalized in the workplace. It shouldn't feel weird or abnormal to have these products in the workplace or at school. So really advocating for having menstrual products in spaces where people might need them, having free products for people who might need them. That's really where it starts, is advocating for these products to be available and accessible.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know Rutgers recently started doing that. They have it in like public, like their libraries and stuff. And I think that helps a lot, because like even like sometimes I just forget. Like sometimes it just happens and I'm like, oh, I have to figure that out now. I have to like change my routine or like do something different. Um, so yeah, having access, but also like talking about it. I think talking and like trying to make it a more of a normal thing, so that it allows, like, you know, like I was kind of saying earlier, that once we have conversations about it and once it kind of enters like mainstream, like as we try to continue to destigmatize these conversations, it makes it easier for period poverty to be addressed in the policy level. It makes it easier for us to get access when we realize it's not a luxury, like Molly was saying, and it's something that's very necessary and very needed, yeah, in our daily lives.
Yeah,
And
big thing talking. Sorry.
no, you can continue. You're good.
So I was just gonna say, like you said, the big thing is discussing it openly. So like instead of just saying, oh, I was just going to the bathroom, like, oh, I just got my period, like they said at the end of the video, not feeling weird saying like I got my period, or like talking about your period. That's really like one of the first steps towards destigmatizing menstruation, making it normal, because it is a completely normal thing.
Yeah.
And you
Ways
know,
that we
oh, sorry, you haven't
yeah,
this.
good. Ways that we can support is part of the conversation, like so maybe like higher ups, like um maybe making it even open to like, hey, like, you know, if it's like your menstrual cycle or whatever, like you can take work from home, or like you can take the day off. Like just already like put it out there. Like this is something that you can do. Um, yeah, just to make it as like flexible for people that have like need it.
And the Niv mentioned earlier, and Molly mentioned earlier that there's still some states in the country that tax and have a luxury tax on these products. And we were one of the first states to abolish that, and we started that in 2005. So we've only been doing it for 20 years. So it's like, think about that prior to that. And recently there was a bill introduced by Senator what's her name? I think Teresa Ruiz. And that bill was to create a period equity and menstrual disorder studies committee in the DOH. It's still, it didn't pass yet, but these are some of the steps that folks are taking. And last year, Governor Murphy recently introduced for the Assembly bill is A 2027 and Senate bill S 2330, and that was to establish Work First New Jersey, which is a menstrual hygiene benefits program. And like I mentioned earlier, it only provides about what $15 state benefits for people who are 18 to 30, 18 to 50. And there's also another aspect of it who will receive $30 as well. But these are some of the things that we need to push more of, because a lot of places give free condoms, free all these other things for men, but where's the equity at? Because you don't, truthfully, you don't need a condom to have sex. It's preventative, but a period, you can't prevent your period. I mean, you can, but some people may not want to go on birth control or hormonal things to stop their period. It's good for you. It's one of those natural systems to clean your body out and to clean you out. So
Yeah.
it's almost prehistoric to think about some states who are taxing this stuff. You can't control your period, but you can stop yourself from having sex, or have kids, right? That's it's not like apples and oranges when it comes to periods. You can't be like, oh, I don't feel like having it today. Let me not have it. Um, it's ridiculous. And there's a lot of, social service organizations, right? Some of them provide food, some of them provide shelter, yada yada. But you got to think about it, and we're going to be partaking this over the summer. We're going to be doing needs assessment and understanding social service providers around Central Jersey and seeing, okay, if you provide food, but do you also provide this? If you provide these products. And the goal of that is to build a pipeline and to build these resources so that more pantries and social service organizations can provide these to their clients regularly to help offset some of the burden of having a period, right? It's ridiculous. I keep saying that, but it is. To having people pay astronomical amounts of money for something that is a really, really natural process.
Yeah. And another thing is just, another thing that's probably not equalized is education. I think different states, different counties, different towns will have different access to the information that they get. And if people aren't getting the right information and just not informed in the way that they need to, how are you supposed to advocate? How are you supposed to go anywhere further? So I think policy and like advocacy to better that, to improve that, so children, kids get the right information is pretty important as well.
Okay. So thank you all. Here's, some of the references we use. These are selected references. And thank you. Thank you all. Whoever's watching us live or it's people who joined us here, we will be sending these out to everyone who RSVP'd, and we will be doing more of these. Part of this is funded through some of the workshops we'll be doing, some of the stuff in person. It's funded through a grant we received at Rutgers. And with that, we're able to pilot all of this, but the goal is to work and create a bigger program where we bring in people, have health educators, and we're actually hitting the streets, hitting schools, and just taking the information out to the people so that it's not in an ivory tower or it's not in somebody's office or in the paper. Like, no, like, what's the point of doing research and investigating and trying to learn if you can't share it and give it to the people in a culturally competent way and meet them where they're at, whether it's, lower literacy, plain language, or different language, it's everybody needs to know this and it's a part of empowering, the people. So thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.